Hey, welcome to the show, and today I want to talk to you about the Travelwide. The Travelwide is a 4x5 point-and-shoot camera that was funded through Kickstarter a few years ago. I have just recently received my camera and I want to show you what came in the box. I'm not going to do an unboxing because I received this from a friend that picked it up for me. But there is an online unboxing that someone did, which I will post in my description. So when you received the camera, you received the body with a focusing helical, which is here, the little viewfinder they made, a pinhole with a cap, which as you can see just fits in there, adapter, a plate adapter with some shins just to get the proper infinite focusing on your 65mm. This would be for the 65, which I won't talk about today. This would be for the 90, which is what I'll talk about today. Then you have some instructions which explain how to mount the lenses and how to shoot 4x5. Also how to install the 65mm plate or uninstall anything you need. So these are the instructions that came with it. And then you have 2 vouchers for some developing, some from Indie Film Lab or the Print Lab in Chicago. This is not very useful for me, for I live in Spain, but this would be probably very useful if you're getting into 4x5 or developing black and white or color. This is probably a good start. This camera is made, as I said, by Wanderlust, which is a company started by 2 people in Chicago, Ben and Justin, who made a previous pinhole cap for Micro Four Thirds or something like that, and then decided to make a compact 4x5 camera that was affordable. So they did the Kickstarter, they raised the money, and they've had lots of trouble to get this camera out, but they managed to do it finally. So here is, as you can see, 3 of them. As I actually bought one, I got 2 friends to lend me theirs to do a little example, which I'll do later. It has 3 flash shoes that are cold, of course, but you would just fit any accessories you want to use on this. Then you have your helical, which basically lets you extend your lens to focus closer or retract your lens to focus further. So this is meant to be used with the 90. If you're using the cone for the 65, it's fixed focus to infinite, but as the depth of field is so big with the 65 on 4x5, you don't need a lot of space to focus, as it's pretty much everything's in focus if you stop down the lens. Then you have the pinhole, as I said, with a cap. You can just pop it out like that. And this is the space for a Copal Zero, which I have here. This is what a Copal Zero looks when you have it mounted for a normal 4x5 camera. This is a Linhof plate made by other people too, but this is what it would look like. And now we just have to install this onto the camera here. Then on the back, you have the springs for the film holders. You have this little focusing screen, which is meant to be used for calibration only, but I did find that you could kind of focus on it if you're doing something very precise. But this camera was intended to be used as a handheld 4x5. So once you pull that out, they also did put some anti-reflectant material in the inside. So if you're using a lens that's not the 90 angle on, which is designed for, and it projects a bigger image, you won't get so many reflections inside the camera, as it is kind of shiny plastic, as you probably can see on the video. And then it has this rubber, which indicates on a little scale that's really hard to see, but I'll try to show you. It comes down to 0.55 centimeters all the way to 2 meters, 4, 5 meters, 10 meters, 50 meters, 30 meters, and infinite. So what you do is you basically get this focusing rib and you just take it off, and once you've found infinite, you would set it there, and basically that would mean your camera is almost like a rangefinder camera, but you wouldn't have to use a rangefinder for that. You could estimate or use an external rangefinder like the ones that I'll show you now. So that's basically the camera. You would fit your film holder in here, and there's a little hole through here which is designed to put any accessory or strap or cable release. But that's basically it. This is the sports finder they made, which is just bent metal with a little window and a bigger window. This is meant to be used with a little window looking towards you and the big window up front, as it's around a 25mm equivalent on a 35mm camera. So that's what came with the camera. And now I'll show you how to mount it and how to get it ready to shoot. The instructions manual is very easy to understand, but just in case you didn't buy the camera and you are wondering how it works, I did do a bigger copy of these instructions to show you step by step how it works. So here is the bigger instructions. Here just thanks you for supporting the project, which if you want to buy it in the future, will be available. They have a website to buy it or to just instructions. They're going to make a walkthrough videos, but they still haven't done that. You have the pin wide and cap, which fits a Copo 0 or a 00 lens mount. Here's a little pinhole cover, so you can put a little string and not lose it for your long exposures. Then it says Copo 0 or Comper 0, our lens mount is a 35.5 millimeter. That's the size of the hole on the front plate on the 90. So this is 35.5 millimeters in diameter. So that's just so you understand that. Then here it says your focusing helical has a focusing collar like I showed you, a focus integrator grip. So basically it does have these two little triangles that basically show you what you're focusing at. So once you would set it up, you would have these little spikes show you what distance is the one you're shooting at. Then you have the metal sports finder. As I told you, the smaller window goes towards you, the bigger window towards what you're shooting at. It has the accessory cold shoes, can mount rangefinders, viewfinders, bubble levels, light meters. That's very standard. Then we have the spring back, International 4x5 back, accepts standard film holders and Polaroid 545i. It doesn't accept some of the other ones, so you don't just go ahead and buy any one. Just try to buy this one. I will try to make a video on the different things that can be held to the camera. Spring can be removed to accept larger holders as Polaroid 405. Basically what you would do is remove these three screws, put the holder and bungee cords or gaffer's tape to be able to shoot something that won't fit inside the springs. And then utility conduits to mount cable releases, straps, or whatever you want to do. So here are the two holes, as I told you, for those optional things. Next, they show you how to mount the lens. You basically have the view camera lenses have three main components. You have A, which is the front element, B, which is the shutter, and 3, which is the rear group. So it's very simple. Some lenses won't have one or the other maybe, but usually most of them have all three elements. If the rear group is bigger than the Travelwide's lens mount, unscrew it. For small lenses like the Angulon f6.8, which is the one I have here, skip this step. Just to show you, basically, as you can see, the retaining ring on this lens, which is the one that's the Travelwide's built around, which is a 90 millimeter Angulon lens, which is an old lens that just barely covers 4x5. You remove this. I should have a wrench for this, but I can't find it. So it's like a credit card type. I'll leave it on the description so you can find it and buy it off eBay, or some people like Rod and Stock and Schneider used to make them, maybe probably still do. So that's the retaining. As you can see, the hole and the back element is so small you don't need to remove it. That would be for this, but for example, on a lens like this, which is a 240 Fujinon, this would be too big. So what you would do is remove the back element, place it in the hole, and then put the retaining ring around and screw the back element back on. But that's not going to happen. It will happen with early lenses if you want to use a different 90 millimeters or 65 millimeters. So this is just to show you. We would, as it says here, place the lens and shutter onto the travel lens mount. Hold the lens in place with one hand as you turn the camera over. Once the retaining ring is off, you would just place it on top. You want to kind of choose what you want to have on top. So for example, I want my cable release to be there. Turn the camera around holding both things. You can see the lens is in there. Now screw in the retaining ring from the back to tighten and rotate the shutter while holding the ring, or use a lens wrench. They're not over tightened. This is plastic, so just don't go too crazy on it. Retaining clip, probably easier to just hold the retaining clip with your fingers and just give it some turn until you feel it goes in. There it goes. Now the screw's in. Keep on screwing, keep on screwing, keep on screwing. I'm gonna just tighten it with my hand, but do use some tools. You can use a lens wrench. You can use a caliper. I don't know if you can fit that in there. So that would basically be fitted in there. You can probably not see it, but it has a little wiggle. So let me try to tighten it a bit more. So that's there. The lens is mounted. It's not tightened, but this is enough to show you how this works. If you remove the rear element in step 1, screw it back into the shutter. That would be with a lens that has a rear element that's bigger, so you would just screw it on now. Before you can use the focusing markings on your Travelwide, you need to perform a one-time focus calibration. So, calibrating focus. Mount your camera on a tripod and point at the very distant object, the moon, skyline, or a very distant tree branches, something like that. You want to mount it with a tripod socket down here. It doesn't have any other tripod sockets. I forgot to mention that. This is the only one. And remove the focusing indicator grip, like I have already done, and insert the focus calibration screen. Make sure the Wanderlust lettering is not backwards. So you want to mount it so you can read Wanderlust. If you're putting it like that, the distance won't be correct. So the springs, you just lift it up, push it in, and that's how it should be to calibrate. Use the preview lever if available, or set the shutter to B, bulb, or T time so you can see through the lens. In this lens, we would have to put it on B. You have to find the B position on this lens, which is here. There's a little triangle there that shows you it's on B. That would be 1 second, half a second, a fifth of a second, 10th. So we go back to B. We would have to cock the shutter, and that would let us see through. You can see the white behind of the paper. If I hold it, it will be fine. If I let go, it will close it. So what we need is a cable release. With a cable release, there's different models, but basically you can shoot and it comes back when you depress, or you can press, tighten this, and it will keep it shot. So that's what we want to do. So I'll screw this onto the lens. There it is. Cock the shutter, shoot, and now that it's open, I keep it tight. So this would be on your tripod, open. Number 4 is center the distant object on the calibration screen. It will be upside down, looking through a loop. Turn the helical back and forth until you find optimal focus. That way, basically as it's open, what you would do, it's probably going to be better to have it almost fully retracted, as that would be closest to infinite. So this is very easy. You just have to turn it till you see it. And I actually on 4x5 and other large format cameras kind of go past infinite and come back to it. So I make sure I'm at the optimal distance for that infinite. And once you've found it, you basically stop. You've taken off your focus indicator grip. So you would basically just replace the focus indicator grip so that it marks infinity. As you can see here, it has these little ridges, and the inside of the focusing ring is also ribbed. So you basically would just find the infinite, which is actually on the top of the camera. So basically here, and we would place those little marks just there. So that would indicate that that was infinite. So that would be it. Now, once you know that's done, now you can use the distance marking on your camera. You don't need to carry the focus calibration screen while shooting. So that means now we would depress the cable release, unscrew it. The lens is already focused at infinite, which would be there. So that's calibrated. The camera, we can take off the back because we don't need this unless we really want to compose something with it. Now we can put a film holder or a different kind of holder in there, and we would be ready to shoot. If you do want to use any other things, I have here a Blick rangefinder. You would actually set this maybe to this side to leave space to some other accessories. they do come pretty tight, so you have to push them in properly. The sports finder, in this case, as you can see, fits just fine in there. Just enough space, as you can see, for the rangefinder, sports finder, and for example, a little shoe mount. Ooh, doesn't fit. So maybe we want to get this off, put this on here. We can just put this one here, for example, as we don't want to actually see what we're shooting. This would be a light meter that goes on your hot shoe or cold shoe. You know, you just meter your scene, find the optimal. So that would be, for example, a rangefinder to calculate your distance and a light meter to meter your light. Then you have your film holder inside. This is light tight at the moment, so if I pull this, I can walk around ready to shoot, and when I shoot, just put it back in. So here, for example, I can put my cable release inside, keep it up there, screw this onto the lens. This lens is real small, so it's not easy to screw some things on it. And that would be your handheld camera. This, you can just cock the shutter and shoot when you want to. It's a bulb right now, but we can change it, for example, to 1/100th of a second. Cock the shutter, find your scene, and that would be a shot. You would have taken out your dark slide, put it back in the other way around. So that's setting up the camera. It's very simple. It's the first thing you've ever done. It'll look a little complicated, but if you've shot large format before, it's real simple. These instructions are easy, as you can see. That's what the camera will look like. It's kind of like a little monster, but it actually works pretty well. And then here you have other instructions. As you can see, loading film. Go is when the white's on the outside of the film holder. Black means you've shot. This is how film is recognized. You know, take your film holders and scissors into completely dark room or changing tent. In the dark, flip the dark slide so that they're white bumpy side and insert them halfway. Ensure there's no film in the holder. Open the film box. Sheet film comes in set with nested boxes with the pouch in the inside. You may need scissors to cut the pouch. Pull out a sheet of film, and these are all things that I've said in a previous video. I'll leave that on the top so you can see, if not in the description, but it's real simple. Shooting with a travel wide. As it says, press a film holder against the camera back at a 90-degree angle. So let me take it out and show you how that would be. So as I said, you would use a 90-degree angle and you have to turn it so those little springs will hold it in, and you push it till you feel that groove on the film holder snaps into the camera. So that's snapped in there. It actually holds on like a pretty good grip to the film holder. Set the shutter speed and an aperture on the shutter. You can use a light meter or the Sunny 16 rule. For full sun, the aperture to f16 and the shutter to 1 divided by film ISO, for example, 1/400th if you're shooting Portra or HP5. Tri-X is pretty close too. Ensure the shutter is not on preview mode, which means this lens doesn't have it, but some lenses like this one, for example, have a preview mode, which keeps your lens open. You see, you wouldn't want that because if you're gonna take off the dark slide, that would expose your film. So you have it ready like that. On this lens, that doesn't happen, so you don't have to take care of that. Never change the shutter speed while the shutter is cocked. So you would first shoot, and then once you've shot, you change your shutter speed. So you decide beforehand what you want to shoot. You could damage the internal springs. I actually have done it before, never had a problem, but I guess it's true. Set the focus on the travel wide. Remember, all focusing markings are in meters. So that is probably hard for those people that are not used to meters. I'm pretty used to them as I live in Europe, but there's a whole scale here. If you don't like it, you can, Sharpie with some white Sharpie markings of your liking on here or of your lens. This is for the 90 angle-on scale. So if you're shooting different lenses, this is probably not exactly accurate, but it probably is close with a 90. Pull the dark slide out, the one facing the lens. That's pretty obvious, but just in case, you always have to pull out the one that's closest to the lens. This is white, which means it's loaded. You would get it ready, press the shutter release or cable release to take a photo. So I would press it, it would take a picture, and then I would flip it around, push it back in. Flip the dark slide over, like I said, from white to black, and slide it back onto the film holder. Black always means exposed or empty. Pull the holder up and out and flip it over for the next shot. After shooting both sides, unload the holder in the dark. Process exposed film promptly. Yeah, don't try to keep your film forever. It might get fogged or, light leaks. So here you have the specifications. Your Travelwide accepts most 90mm view camera lenses f6.8 and above, mounted on Copal 0 or Compor 0 shutters, not compatible with Copal 00 lenses. These are the supported lenses, is a partial list, and the pin wide aperture. It will change depending on how extended your helical is, so you would have to take a little cheat sheet to know, or just have this saved on your phone or anywhere else. But basically, that's the information. This is the helical range, which goes from 89.5mm to 109mm. So that will cover the 90, maybe 100 millimeter lenses, but that's pretty much it. Then you have the websites for them is a 4x5 camera or the Wanderlust camera. These are kind of being built still, so don't try to go there yet, maybe in the future. Then on the back you have the 65mm conversion kit. I will do this in a future video. Installation of this is here too. How to uninstall it is here too. And again, reminder of the websites. Well, I hope you liked the video, and if you have any questions, let me know. I will make some future videos about using it or using different lenses on the camera. Thank you.